Okay, so welcome everyone. Great to be here for either the penultimate or the last class. We'll decide. Maybe we'll be spontaneous. Speaking of spontaneity, I do not hesitate to admit that I completely forgot about class this morning. So Barbara came into my office at 9:40 and reminded me, Michael, where are we meeting for the class? And recovering from that initially dumbfounded look on my face, I said, yeah, we'll anyway. So there's always plenty of material to cover. And I was aware of the class 2 days ago. I just completely forgot this morning. So don't think I forgot about you. Just slipped my mind momentarily. So what I would like to say is that I want to dedicate this class to my beloved father, for whom the Shloshim ends this morning. So this will probably be the last time you see me with a beard for a long time. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And this is all in recording, of course. But anyway.
You know where you're going this afternoon.
So I wanted to take a look at something that we often take for granted, and that's the priestly blessings. So if you look at that on page 804 in the Eitz Chaim, or as I said, chapter 6, verse 22, there's some interesting questions that arise, and I often go to Rabbi Shai Held. Occasionally, he brings some very interesting insights, sometimes into various issues that we kind of pass over. So the first question is, what's the nature of these blessings? It says, and what's the real function of the priests? So if you look at the initial instructions, Vaydaber Adonai el Moshe lemor, classic introduction, thus the Lord spoke to Moses. Speak to Aaron and his sons, thus shall you bless the people of Israel, say to them. So one of the questions that arises, without even looking at the text to the three blessings, is why does God, through Moses, need to suggest a text for the blessing that the priests are going to offer? Why not leave that blessing for the priests to decide on their own? Why shouldn't the priest say that? Why does this have to come in a very specific formula?
You need to leave it the same. There has to be continuum. Can you speak up?
And I'm sure they'll ask you to speak up as well.
You need to have everything the same. There needs to be a continuum so that there's a consistency and people aren't just making up their own or adding their own, but you know that everybody is getting the same blessing. Why?
Okay, that's an interesting point. So everybody's getting the same blessing. Maybe I'll just tweak that a little bit. Everybody's getting the same formula of blessing, but is everyone getting the same blessing? How specific? For example, if you look at the first blessing, Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, the Lord shall bless you and protect you. So it's a fairly generic blessing. There's not a lot of specifics there. What does it mean the Lord will bless you? That's what these are all about. What do you mean? Why would you say that again? This is the way you shall bless the people. And then it says the Lord will bless you. So first of all, why does God need the priests to say to the people that the Lord will bless you? They're not blessing them. They're saying the Lord will bless you. They're not really even giving the people a blessing. They're saying the Lord will bless and protect you. It's not really a blessing that the priests themselves are offering. They're just transmitting, in a sense, something.
It's connecting the people with God, connecting with the people. So that there's a next step.
So why does God need this intermediary of the priests?
To ensure that the people see the interaction or the responsibility that they have to God, and to accept that God is in charge or over the.
Don't you think the people would see that more effectively if God offered the blessing, God's self?
It's putting it's putting a next step or a next stage, so that you're working your way up, and that God is there and we're here. I think. Sorry.
No, I'm saying he's like a role model.
he gets the instructions from God, and then he gives the blessing, so he's role modeling, and then hopefully the people will. Well, I don't think God can show himself, like God's not going to show himself to the people.
Okay, no, I think that's a good point, because we talk about God and revelation at Sinai, this one-time event, but maybe God doesn't want to have to bother with revelation over and over. Maybe it takes away from that, and you need someone, as Moses is transmitting the instructions of the Torah to the people, you need somebody to transfer that element of blessing. But why would the priests need to say, just offer the blessing? Why do the priests have to say, God will bless you? Isn't that what they're doing? Why do they need to introduce it with that first formula?
I think that people need to hear that there's a
Directive.
being or a person in charge that's behind the scenes that will help carry us forward. And I think that's human nature, is that they would want to know that there's a leader, figurehead. Moses won't always be there. Aaron won't always be there, or any of those people, but there's a God that will always be there. So that there's a God's presence everywhere.
Okay, that kind of ties in with the phrases, because it doesn't say to Aaron, thus shall you bless the people. It says, say to Aaron and his sons. So this sense of some kind of continuity, that these blessings are not like revelation on Sinai, in a sense, a one-time event, but this is something that's going to go on through generation to generation. The fact that you're mentioning Aaron's sons, you're not going to mention as his grandsons, and et cetera, et cetera. The implication is that this is going to be a generational experience, and multiple times in the generation. It doesn't say when this should take place and how often it takes place. You don't really get a sense of that. There's just this idea that following the completion of the Mishkan is an appropriate time. We've just read about a little bit earlier. I'm skipping the part about the bitter water ordeal and the Nazirite laws, but the idea that the Mishkan has been completed, they're about to celebrate that with the sacrifices and offerings brought by the various chieftains of the tribes to have this wonderful celebration of the Mishkan being ready. This is an opportune time as well for the priests to bless the people. Based on this, when else would be a meaningful time for priests to bless the people? It doesn't say here. It gives a certain set of circumstances. These are the blessings that should be offered by the priests in the name of God, on behalf of God. And if we're understanding it as something that's to be offered in future generations, so what are the circumstances when this blessing might be appropriate? We know what it is here: celebration of the completion and now implementation of ritual laws at the Mishkan. When else should that priestly blessing be offered?
Milestones in life. Significant milestones in Jewish life.
Okay, so we did that this morning. We do that at a bar mitzvah. We do that at baby naming. We do it at a wedding. So we do it at life cycles. We don't do it traditionally at death. You might say that would be a harsh thing to do for a grieving family. God will bless you when you're dealing with loss. That might be a very challenging time to be accepting of blessings.
Or it could be the opposite.
It could be, but perhaps that sensitivity of being able to receive a blessing when you're with grieving, especially at a funeral or upon someone's death, probably not the best time for somebody to be receptive to blessing. They might be somewhat cynical. I would say for the most part, they say, what are you talking about blessing for? But that's one perception of that. And as a matter of fact, one of the comments, I'll just a second. One of the comments about these blessings offered by, I think it's Rabbi El-Shaikh, says that the blessings at this point are a challenge in terms of what God is going to offer, because the children of Israel, they're still in a slave mentality. And he says, the idea of offering someone a blessing at that point when they're stuck in the past, as opposed to thinking of what might come in the future, was a real challenge. And that's why they had to kind of change the frame of mind of the Israelites. They weren't possibly so receptive to blessing, or were challenged because, and we see this numerous times during the narrative, they're always harping back on how good things, how preferable things were in Egypt, where of course that was not the case, but that's their perception. And sometimes when we want to offer somebody a blessing, they may not be so receptive to it because they say, well, who are you to say that this is something that I want or need or should be striving for when I'm comfortable or I like what I have. We don't often think of that when we're blessing somebody. Think, why would they not want that blessing? Why would they not accept it if we offer that to them? But it's not always the case. Sometimes people are not receptive to a blessing that we might want to offer. Barb.
I was going to add that perhaps it's they're also indicative of being included in community. When the community was going to gather, when it was listed the various holidays and Shabbat, even though those hadn't been established yet in terms of how they were going to take place, it was still a gathering of everybody was going to come with the holidays. And so it would be an opportunity for the priests to bless the people.
Okay. And that's why, great segue, that's why we use the blessings of the priest. Some communities do it every Shabbat. There are some places in Israel, they used to do that. I remember on the kibbutz, Bnei Akiva kibbutz, they do it every Shabbat. But many communities and ours, we would do it on festivals when we had possibly the maximum number of people available. So we would do that on Yom Kippur. We do it on the Shavuot, Shalosh Regalim. We do that when people are gathering together and have an opportunity to celebrate community, as well as this idea of the Mishkan, the temple, because on those festivals we brought not just sacrifices, but agricultural bounty to celebrate the success of the agricultural cycles. So that was an opportunity where more people would gather. So life cycles, calendar cycle events as well, those are opportunities when circumstances would suggest offering these priestly blessings. And of course, the priests were the ones, together with the Levites, who managed that whole endeavor at the temple and earlier the Mishkan for centuries. So it's appropriate that they're the ones offering that blessing, obviously.
So are there only a selective Shabbatot when you would have the Kohanim come up and give us the priestly blessing?
No, some communities do it every Shabbat. Some
Yeah.
communities do it every Shabbat. Yeah, every Shabbat. We don't. We never did. We used to do it on holidays, and of course during COVID, we stopped that and only did it the first time on Pesach. We hadn't done it in a long time. So that was kind of a nice experience. A lot of people are not crazy about that because it's kind of holds on to this exclusive opportunity, male opportunity to bless the people. You know, daughters of priests are not really considered as part of that in our community, but there are places where women, Bnot Kohen, can participate in that priestly blessing. Not yet, possibly. Yeah.
I've seen where they
Park
do.
Avenue.
Yeah, where women.
Oh, I've never seen that.
I wanted to come back to something.
Sure.
That one of the things you push people to move forward in their lives, that they shouldn't live in their grief, they shouldn't whatever. You want to push them forward to living. So this helps them go forward, I think.
It can.
When grieving people are ready or able or are helped to move themselves a little bit forward, one of the milestones is that they begin to catch a little piece of something going forward, which is very important. And they grab onto something that will help them start to move forward.
Yeah, this might be
This is very useful.
this might be a nice thing to do at Shloshim. I would say at a funeral, it's probably not the appropriate time to talk about that kind of blessing. That's just too much to handle. But maybe at Shloshim or the end of the 11 months of St. Kaddish or at the end of the year on the first yurt site, offering these blessings might be a nice application as with other life cycle events. So that's a good suggestion, and maybe we can explore that as a possibility. That might be a nice tradition.
Just I want
From-
to just add something, sorry, that for people who continue to stay in their grief and don't begin to take steps to move forward, that's maybe a good stepping stone.
Okay, yeah, no, I think that's worth.
Never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
Um,
So I think that's something to consider, when we're trying to be creative and relevant contemporarily to ways of engaging people and helping them.
I could certainly speak personally to that, as how did I crawl out, was being pushed, whatever, to start to crawl out.
Right.
So you see, you never know. You never know, everybody reacts in a different way.
So one other comment I want to add along that line is that, so Rabbi Held suggests that when we involve the priests here, it perhaps is to suggest to the people that there is this element of continuity, but at the same time, when we talk about the priestly blessing, just think of the term. It's a blessing being offered by the priests. But this, as Rabbi Held suggests, says clearly, it's not the priest's blessing. It's a priestly blessing, but it's God's blessing. They're simply transmitting that blessing. And it says that clearly every time. It says, Ko tevarchu, thus shall you bless the children of Israel. Say to them, and use this formula. And in that formula, every time God's name is mentioned, isn't it obvious that those blessings are coming from God? Well, they want to make sure that the people understand these are not the priests offering a blessing because they have that power of blessing. They're simply conveying the power of blessing offered them and that authority offered by God. And that's why every one of those, Yavarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, Ya'er Adonai panavelecha, Yisa Adonai panavelecha, Yasem lecha shalom. He wants to be clear that the priests are an instrument, a way of conveying that blessing, but that blessing source is from God. Because in a sense, maybe you can't depend on the priest to always have the genuine care and love that they need, although you would hope that's the case. And maybe it's no coincidence, if you turn to your Siddur for a moment, go to page 488. So we talk about the formula. The formula is set, but how that blessing is conveyed is up to the priests. Because what is the blessing that the priests offer? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu bikdushato shel Aharon v'tzivanu levorech et amo Yisrael be'ahava. So you might say, any blessing we offer, Asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu, who commanded us according to his God's commandments. This is the one place where it mentioned Asher kitshanu, God has sanctified us in the holiness of Aaron, specifically Aaron. It doesn't mention God here, it mentions Aaron. And then it says, so you can bless the people Israel in love, with love. The only place where love is part of a blessing. There's no other place where love is an element of the manner in which a blessing is supposed to be offered to someone. You don't say that. I lovingly thank God for giving me this fruit. I lovingly thank God for giving me the bread from the earth. We never say that. This is the only place where you have that element of love. And the message here is if you recall, it's not in this Siddur. You remember the Siddur at the end of Rabbi Yishmael in the morning? There are two Yehiratzons, one that talks about,
Yes.
the second one where we talk about, the Beit HaMikdash, the temple should be built speedily in our own day. So, I mean, to me personally, that's anathema.
Right.
I don't want to hear that.
But some people.
But the
say
other
it.
one talks about that should count us among the students of Aaron who profess love for the people of Israel, because he loved all creation. Aaron loved all creation. So the idea of this blessing is, yes, you have a formula, that's being offered by God that you're to transmit to the people of Israel, but you need to determine the tone of that blessing, how it's going to be offered. And your goal, he's saying that's the future generations, is to do it the same way that Aaron loved all creation. You have to do it with love. You have to convey that blessing with love. Otherwise, that formula is not worth a whole lot. If it's not done in the proper manner, then no one's going to take that formula seriously. I don't hesitate to say that when I see, and I don't know if this is the case in other shuls because I don't really see it, but when I see the people, the Kohanim in our community get up there and do it, there is something really genuine about they love what they're doing and they take that responsibility seriously. I have no hesitation saying that, whether it's Paul Bornfrein or
Stepping up the steps.
Igor
Yeah.
or any of the others who go up there to take the Ted Cohen, any of the others who are courageous enough to get up there and do this ritual, they enjoy doing it. They're doing it. They really are doing it out of love. And it's not love for themselves. It's love for the opportunity to do that for the congregation. Moshe Lezebnik, alav shalom.
Yeah.
Same thing. He used to love going up there and doing it. And again, I don't know what it's like in other communities, but we're fortunate. And next time they do it, and hopefully maybe on Shabbat, we'll have the opportunity to do it if we have enough Kohanim here. Next time, look at them as they do it. You're not supposed to look at their face when they're offering the blessing, but look at them before and after and listen to their voices and see if you can distinguish, see if you can distinguish that. And I'll mention something if I hear that, because I know Paul Broadfriend really makes a big deal. Like makes a big deal of it, which is beautiful. Which is beautiful. It is. It is a big deal.
In their background.
That's fine. You can learn that in your background, but it doesn't mean that's something you're going to continue. It's not just, but you learn text in your background. You don't. You have to acquire. Okay, but you have to acquire that sincerity and genuine concern for the people for whom you're performing it.
That's not making the call.
The first one is this morning when you davened and you did the priestly blessings, when you got to it, you didn't do what Isaac, where you didn't do the going forward, going sideways, or is it, it's not necessary to do that. Is that, should I?
That's a tradition. It's not necessarily part of the priestly blessing, but
Fine. All right. Just a clarification, because I was watching what you were doing, and I mean, today it was a perfect example.
I'll keep that in mind next time.
Uh-oh.
The little girl the baby was watching you more.
This is adorable.
What would happen
Yes,
on
gender.
Saturday amongst the women who perhaps own a Kohen title or stature in the community? Could they be, could they come up?
Well, so somebody had the right term before, not yet. Because the decision of our Mara Da'atra is that that's not something that we assign to women in our community. It doesn't, it's done at other places, but not here. So that's not something I would do.
Right.
I don't have the authority to do that. The Mara Da'atra of our congregation is the one who would decide whether
And at
that
this point,
ritual can be changed in that manner. That, so that I will say unhesitatingly that won't happen this weekend.
American conservative schools do have women come up.
Yeah, no, I'm aware of that. And there may be a time when that's something that our
I don't know about
community
this.
sees as appropriate.
Yeah, it could be a woman who comes from the tribe of Kohen. Yeah.
Possibly, yeah. So
We'll
we're not,
never be able to
Have to
do
be a
that.
Kohen. I'm an Israel. I'm a.
Yisrael.
so we're not there at that point.
No.
At this point, I should say.
But it's okay within the context of the davening that we do in the morning. You can say it because it's part of the.
It's part of the liturgy. It's not the ritual of priestly blessing. Just like in the first part of Psukei Dezim of Birchot HaShachar,
Yeah.
when we talk about the Shema,
Yeah.
that's not the recitation, the twice recitation of the Shema. That's not one of the two times. That is just saying, and this is what we do twice a day. We say Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad, but that's not one of the two times. That's just describing what we do. So like the priestly blessing in the Amidah,
Yeah.
we're saying what we do, but it's not the ritual of a priestly blessing, okay? There's a difference between describing using the text as opposed to performing that text as part of the ritual. So the Shema, the Shema is kind of an example of that, and that's there. You're not offering a priestly blessing. You're saying this is something that we offer at various appropriate circumstances. So we just want you to be aware of it, but we're not doing that now.
Fascinating.
It
That's
is,
kind of-
I
I
mean,
finally
you're-
got an explanation from
Yeah,
the bottom
yeah,
page with
yeah,
the one line.
yeah,
I thought,
that makes
well,
total
why are
sense,
we
yeah.
not?
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you don't need to cover your eyes when you say the Shema at that point, because that's not one of those two times.
and we never used to cover our eyes in the synagogue until a while ago, like it was random, it
Oh,
was
really?
not. Yeah,
See,
I
some
never
people
taught
did.
it, we
In
changed
school,
it.
we never
You didn't learn that. Well, sometimes, when some people will get up and daven, you want to cover your ears, not your eyes. But then,
We won't go there.
it was just too tempting to say that. I mean, no, but I don't say that in any critical way. I'm just, it was just an opportunity. Anyway, so I want to just go back to that first blessing, because there's some interesting comments about that. The Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. So when it says the Lord bless you and protect you, who's that blessing directed at?
Well, I'm wondering, Aaron and his son?
So if it says everybody, shouldn't it be in the plural?
Oh, now I have to go to the.
So when it's in the, so why is that blessing in the singular as opposed to in the plural? If you're blessing the entire people, why wouldn't you say Yevarechechem Adonai v'yishmarchem? Why wouldn't we put it in the plural? I mean, gender notwithstanding, but why not in the plural?
Because everyone should feel that God is speaking to him or her personally.
So both of you, Ruth and Anna, you both have wonderful perspectives. On the one hand, what if I understood what you said, Ruth, and correct me, I didn't really get a chance to express it. You go ahead and say it.
One, your community, your group is just one, so that's why it's in the singular, you're reflecting the one.
Beautiful. So we want to have the sense that there's some element of unity in the community. We are one people, but at the same time, as Anna suggests, that blessing, what does it mean to bless somebody? I, as a ritual director, may want a blessing that let me do all my duties well. Let me read Torah without making any mistakes, that kind of thing. If I'm a financial consultant, my blessing may be, well, let the markets, at least for my clients, go in a positive direction so I can serve my clients properly. So that blessing is also, at the same time as it's applying to everybody collectively, there's also an individual. Did I not let somebody in? Oh, shoot. Oh, I'm just wondering if somebody was there and I didn't let them in. That's the Zoom. Let me just apologize.
She went to answer the phone.
No, there was somebody else who was trying.
Oh,
Oh, there is.
you do have somebody here.
So Bernard, oh, he's not connected yet. Oh, wait a second. So there's also,
You should.
Bernie, my sincere apologies for not noticing that you were trying to get in. I'm so sorry about that. The screen was turned away and my negligence, my apologies. So we're talking about the priestly blessings, and we were just looking at the wording and the grammar of it. The first one, Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, is in the singular. So Ruth suggested, why in the singular if you're talking to everybody? Because we want to talk about some kind of element of unity, see ourselves as one people. Anna suggested an additional perspective that when we talk about these blessings, those blessings need to apply to each person in their own way, according to their own needs. To suggest that everybody needs more personal wealth may sound great, but that's not what everybody needs or wants. Somebody may want a successful relationship. Somebody may want to perform a task well. So it's in the singular. So when people hear that blessing, they can understand that blessing as relating to them individually. They can try to understand that blessing in terms that are meaningful for them, as well as that idea of a collective blessing for the entire people. There's another interesting interpretation of the word v'yishmerecha. So it says God should bless you, which is a great generic expression. What's this idea of protect you? When you put it together, especially with the idea of blessing, what if you're saying, give me blessing, I would assume that part of a blessing would be that I'm going to be protected, I'm going to be taken care of, I'm going to be safe. So there's a beautiful interpretation of the protection issue, that you should be blessed, but you should be protected from your blessing. So what might that mean?
Oh, my goodness.
So I give you a blessing. Why would I say that you need to be protected from the blessing as well?
This could be a curse.
Give me an example. How could a blessing be a curse? Or how could it become a curse?
Really? You're looking at the wrong.
I'm looking at all of you. I'm looking at all of you.
Could be too much or something.
Yes, you
Could
put,
be
you put,
overwhelming.
Give me an example. Give me a
Well,
concrete example.
Michael,
1 second, Brenda. Okay. So interesting. So a blessing to have a lot of children, that may be your understanding. So you're thinking, wow, that'd be great. I want to have a lot of children.
oh.
9 years go by, you've got 6 kids, and you're saying that was a blessing. So, and
you-
or to live a long life, and you live to a ripe old age, but that ripe old age is a rotten old age sometimes, and it can turn into a curse by being around longer than you might want to be around. Brenda, you wanted to add something?
that's very, I was just going to say, because you remember, or at least I remember, when my grandmother or my mother used to say in Yiddish, and I can't quote it in Yiddish, but if you give someone a blessing, you can also plate what they call an ahora on it.
Yeah.
So
like a curse.
but curses can be unintentional when you give someone a blessing.
And
So you have to be careful in how you word the blessing. And when you talk about the high priest, I think that the high priests are there because they are the agents of Hashem. And I think that the Israelites, you said in the slave mentality, that they needed to have a human, someone human that they could relate to. They may or may not believe in God at this point. They're all still at a slave mentality, but when they see the human factor of it, then they would take the blessings more seriously. Does
Okay,
that
no,
make any sense?
that makes a lot of sense. I think part of the reason for the golden calf is that the people needed something tangible. It's great to talk about this omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient God, but when you can't see anything and you're having troubles and you want to know how you're going to cope with those, you need something that you can bring a sacrifice to and see it. So worshiping an idol might make a lot of sense under those circumstances. It took time to transition to worshiping, but without seeing anything beyond the smoke of the sacrifice going up. And those agents, as you suggest, Brenda, the priests, performing that on behalf of God. So that's a very good point. I just want to go back for a moment to this idea of protection from blessings. So sometimes you ask for rich wealth. So you might say, how can too much wealth be a bad thing? Too much money, too much real estate be a bad thing? So the comment is that too much can make you greedy. And if you become greedy, what became a blessing may continue to be a blessing for you, but you can make it a curse for others as well. So you have to beware of that blessing. By being greedy, you may have lost your concern for others in the community, as opposed to using that wealth to help others. That's the multiplication of a blessing. You becoming wealthy and you helping others as you being an agent of God to help others become wealthy and successful as well. But it doesn't always go that way. Sometimes once you acquire more wealth, you only acquire more and more, and that can often be at the expense of others. And even if it's not at the expense of others, if you become greedy and focused on wealth, it impacts on the kind of person you are as well, and your sense of value for your own self. So there are a lot of ways in which blessings, which may start off in that sense, can become a curse, or can at least have a cursey element to them, and impact negatively on our lives. There's a lot more we could say about these, and there's wonderful discussion about these, but I think just touching on a little bit, we don't want to exhaust the opportunity as we offer those blessings, hopefully on Friday or Saturday or Shabbat, on one of the days of Shavuot, for you to think a little bit more about what those might be and how they might be relevant to each of us.
Hollywood figured it out too. There are a lot of movies where, you know, somebody hits their head on the ground and the angel comes and says, what can I give you? You know, God is prepared either to save your life, give you 24 hours. What would you do? The life becomes a curse. And, you know, that's Scrooge. You know, these are all the same kinds of things. Your granted wishes, and you need somebody to protect you from some of those wishes. Are
Good. Yeah. Any other comments?
Well, from a very personal point of view, it's interesting how you tied all of this in. The end, after the 4 blessings, it says, thus they shall link my name with the people of Israel, and I will bless them. And then you pointed out how it is done with love. And I take it a step further from my very secular upbringing, and there's still a little part of me that is very secular, but we have reached a stage.
Embrace it.
Embrace it, yes, yes, that. And on Friday nights, I am now part of blessing our children, which I never even knew about or did. And then Paul would do it, and now I do it. And you're talking, I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm saying the blessings, I'm blessing my 2 children, and that's bringing it down, but I'm doing it with love. And that's an incredible tie-in. I never sort of linked that, but it's such a good feeling to do that.
across the Jordan River, Barbara.
Oh, you bet.
Or the Rubicon.
You, you know what, if may I comment to Barbara, you never
Please.
know where your life is going to take you. You may start out, and I know you a long time, Barbara, I won't say how long, but we were in high school together, just as a personal reference.
Yeah.
So you never know where your life is going to take you, and it doesn't have to be a big deal, but at some point when your life takes a turn, it leads you down a path that you never thought you would lead yourself down to.
Okay. Did you go to Mackenzie?
And hopefully it's a
Yes.
good path.
It is a good path. I know I had a personal experience too, and it led me down a very, very good path. Despite all that's happened, things are still good for me
Yes.
in that sense.
No, that's
That's good to
very good
hear.
to hear, Brenda. Thank you.
Very well said.
So I wish everyone a Chag Sameach. Hopefully we have the experience of hearing the priestly blessing, Birkat
Yeah.
Kohanim, this sometime in the coming couple of days, whether on live stream or in person. And I'll let you know if we can get in one more class in June. If anyone's interested, we'll see if we can get in one more.
Yes.
No, not yet, not yet, not yet.
Yeah, I'm going away.
Yeah, right. Dream on, as they say. Anyway, Chag Sameach, everybody, and Bernie, again, my sincere apologies for not seeing you trying to get in earlier.
Okay, Chag Sameach
Excellent. Good to see you, Bernie.
and Shabbat Shalom.
Oh,
Shabbat Shalom and Chag Sameach. Thank you.
Shabbat Shalom and Hag Sameach. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.